This is this way we read our Mishnah. Lo yitnu Shabbos. Now let's give the matanos on Shabbos. Now, this we're going to cross-reference to another Mishnah, which says something similar. The Tanina Tana to Taman, and we're going to derive the principles of our Mishnah from that Mishnah. It's here what we learned over there. Beis Shammai says, "Ein molichin chala matanos l'kohen b'yontif." You're not allowed to take chala or matanos, that's the zrola chayim and keva, which you give from the shechted animal, to a kohen on yontif. Bein truma mi'emesh, whether they were taken yesterday. Bein truma mi'oma, whether they were taken today. Regardless, you're not allowed to give it to kohen. Why? Because you might come to take them off on Shabbos themselves, and or I guess we're also afraid that it looks like Mekach or Memkar, maybe carrying also a whole bunch of various different possibilities. Beis Hillel matirin. Beis Hillel, that's all Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says it's mutter. However, in our Mishnah, it said clearly it's also, right? So here, how can Beis Hillel say it's mutter? So there it's talking about chala and matanos. Chala from dough, and matanos from shechted animal. That we allow him to take to a kohen on Yontif or on Yontif or on Shabbos, as we'll see in a minute. Our Mishnah is about Trumas and Maasros. Trumas and Maasros, even Beis Hillel can teach you're not allowed to give to a kohen on Shabbos or Yontif. Why? Because it's you're much more liable to actually go and be misake and start fixing up things if you let you take off Trumas and Maasros. So, and this is what the Gemara is about to say. Hada Yalfa Minahi. Our Mishnah derives its interpretation from that Mishnah. Vayi Yalfa Minador, and that Mishnah learns from our Mishnah. Hada Yalfa Minahi. Our Mishnah derives from that Mishnah. He Yontif, he Shabbos. There's no differentiation between Yontif and Shabbos, because there they spoke about Yontif, and here we spoke about Shabbos. We say there's no distinction. Hada Vayi Yalfa Minador. And our Mishnah learns from that Mishnah. Well, how does our Mishnah learn from that? That Mishnah learns from our Mishnah. How so? B'lemudim. When does Beis Hillel allow you to give the Zrola Chaim and Keva and the Chala to a Kohen on Shabbos Yontif? When these are individuals who normally eat by you. But if they're not accustomed to eat by you, so then it looks too much like a ruse. Why? Because lo solak al barnish mechul piste. The person does not come in to eat bread, but basically the chavrei in his friend's house, unless he's invited for some specific reason. Again, a ben bayis is different. That's the point we're making, right? A ben bayis, you can have him come in and eat Israel Chaim and Cave on anything, right? However, what we're talking about over here, that when it's if it's somebody which is somebody who's not a ben bayis, if it's somebody who's not a ben bayis, so then you're not allowed to have him come in on Shabbos and Yontif and give him your Chala, Zrola Chaim and Keva and your Trumas and Maasros of Demai. Okay? So going back to our Mishnah for a minute, our Mishnah said at the end of the Mishnah, the previous Amud, it said, Lo yitne v'imay kohen o ani lemudim lo chaletzlo. If the kohen or ani were accustomed to eating by him, yavo v'yochlu, they can come and eat to v'vad shiodim as long as you come and tell them. So that heter specifically applies to a case, obviously, where you know this person he normally comes to eat by you, because otherwise it looks like you're just doing a legal fiction, and that we utilizing a loophole, and that we do not allow you to do. Now, once we spoke about legal fictions in this sense, so we're going to go into a little bit of a guidance about the topic. Tani, we learned, a person should not plead with his friend, to come be a guest by him, when the person who's passing himself off as the magnanimous host knows Sheno Road said that the guest doesn't want to come, right? Because it's Genevas Das. Because he thinks that you're being very nice to him, but you know very well that he doesn't want to come to eat, and that's the only reason why you're being nice to him. Okay? Similarly, you should not try and make him feel close to you and do all sorts of things to try and bring him close. When you know that person is not going to receive it, because again, it's Genevas Das. What's an example? What's an example of trying to bring a person close when you know it's a trick? The yadashu rachitz, when you know a person already washed, meaning he already ate, He already ate. I'm not sure if it was wash my rishonim, wash my machronim, but he already washed and ate. He doesn't need to eat already. Again. And you try to, you toil to get him to come eat by you. So you know he's not coming. You're just doing it in order to make a good impression on him. So that's forbidden. Okay? So again, this relates back to our Gemara, because we're saying in our Gemara that you can't do this legal fiction of having a Kohen or an Ani come to eat by you if it's in reality somebody who never comes to eat by you on any other occasion.
Is this in the Mishnah Berurah? Doesn't he bring down...
Yeah, they said all these Gnevas Das things are brought down halacha. Okay? Yerushalmi have a mapich pilchich. An interesting custom. They used to turn over a flag or a woven piece of cloth. This small from left to right, meaning that as long as there's room in the house for guests, they'll keep the flag on the left side of the door. Once the house is full, they put the flag on the right side of the door, so that the people people know exactly when they were invited, when they weren't invited, and there was no attempt to invite people if they knew that the house was full. There was none of this trickery going on there. Okay? Along the lines of Gnevas Das, Tani, we learned, Emolichin the base of Avel. You cannot take food to an Avel's house in a colored glass vessel. Why? Because he bears you a debt of gratitude for naught. In other words, if you bring in a colored vessel, so the Avel can't see what he's getting. So he thinks he's getting, all sorts of great stuff, right? Cakes and cookies and candies. And in the meantime, while there is in there some paltry something or other, right? So therefore, it has to be, in order not to cause such gnevas tas, it has to be in a clear glass vessel, so the Avel knows exactly what he's getting from you. Okay? Tani, we learned, there's a city in which both Goyim and Jews live. Hagaboyim govim mishal Yisrael. The Gaboyim collect from Yisrael and Mishal Akum and from Goyim. Umefarnesim ani Yisrael v'ani Akum, and you sustain the non-Jewish poor people together with the Jewish poor people. Umevakin chol Yisrael v'chol Akum, you're mevaker cholim by sick people of Jews and Goyim. You get involved with the burial of dead Jews and dead Goyim. You go to console the Avelim for Am Yisrael and Avelim Gakum and Avelim Goyim as well. And you launder, it should be machavsin, you launder the garments of a Goy and a Jew indiscriminately. I just wondered, I wonder if the same thing applies to JUF. I don't know. I give money to the JUF every year. By my poverty-stricken standards, I give a lot too. I give $54 every year. But the question is, this year I saw actually in the JUF news that they give in Israel $2 million to non-Orthodox charities and $500,000 to Orthodox charities, which is totally out of proportion. So I don't know if the same heter applies, the same halacha Mnei Darkei Sholem applies to Jewish non-Orthodox charities as applies to non-Jewish charities. I know what you think. Yes? Go ahead, you can say it anyway.
$0 to Yesha.
Yeah, predictable, right. So, yes. Dr. Spell, you gotta learn not to be so predictable. Yes?
Halach l'maisa, as far as being menachem avel to a akum.
Yeah.
I went to a wake of a patient of mine that was in a funeral parlor.
Wakes don't have religious significance?
No.
They don't?
It was not in a church. It was in a funeral parlor, and there was no ceremony whatsoever. But that was my first...
Well, they would just stand around and schmooze?
It's like a receiving line.
Yeah.
It's an open casket, and there's a receiving line. And they would always, in front of the casket, and receiving people, and that's it. And then they stand around and schmooze.
Okay. All right, so here it is. That's this. Okay, Girdoi. Now, the question is how far this go. People live in a certain town called Girat or Gerrit or something like that. Shalin the Rabbi Ami. That's Rabbi Ami. Yom Mishter Shel Akum on a Goyish festival day. Chveis, Easter. Mao. Are you allowed to go have a party by them? right? Mao levakir etzlo. Mao. Sovereign Mishulon, so Rabbi Yami wanted to be mad to them, minhacha from here, Minei Shalom, right? Amalon Rabbi Ba, sorry, Ba said this, not so fast. But Tai Rabbi Chia, then Rabbi Chia say, Yom Mishta Shal Akum Asur, on the day of the party of the Goyim, it's forbidden. Why? Because he's going to go afterwards to temple and thank his God for having brought the Jew to celebrate the Yontif.
So many Gemaras, are dealing with the fact that you can't even do business.
We don't know. We have not come to the Yerushalmi Avodah Zarah yet.
I understand.
We have no idea what the Yerushalmi Avodah Zarah is going to look like, right? So your guess is as good as mine. What goes on there?
But and what about going?
Doubtless there was less familiarity in Eretz Yisrael with those halachos than in Bavel. Yeah, because there's less assimilation, less to do with them. Yeah, the Goyim, there were less Goyim. And therefore, I assume there was also less intermingling.
There's almost 40 blot of Yerushalmi Avodah Zarah.
That much?
Yeah.
That's a very long Masechta.
You saw it. I haven't seen it in the calendar today.
Oh yeah.
So they knew something about Avodah Zarah.
You saw a Yerushalmi calendar which goes all the way to Avodah Zarah?
Yeah, the one you handed us.
It doesn't have Avodah Zarah in it.
I have a flip side. It goes through. Yes, it does. Look at the last year's.
Oh, it's from last year, maybe. Oh, that's right. Oh, from the last cycle. That's right, because it's right at the end of the last cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, the last. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's the tail of the last cycle. It's 40 blot. Yeah, by Yerushalmi, that's Babasson Yerushalmi is 30 blot. So.
They should switch it to shipping next.
That's right. All right.
So about going to a Christmas party. So that's again a lachma.
Right, so he says, no, but the thing is, in America, these office parties are not the same as they once were, and, they're no religious significance, right, just drunkenness.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yami, so Rabbi Yami said, Ilule Rabbi Ba, if not for Rabbi Ba having come, we would have been matir their avodah zarah. Baruch Hamakom Shiur Chaknum, Baruch Hashem. The Rabbi Ba came and told me this halacha, so I was able to distance myself from being matir this potentially severe issur. Okay, new Mishnah. Homer l'mishay halacha dal. Homer l'mishay no neman al masros. You say to somebody who's not normally trusted on maasros, he's your agent. Kach li mishu neman. Now this could be very much halacha l'maisa because this is going to be talking about substitute maasros and talk about kashrus issues of any type, right? The same idea. Okay, it just happens here to be about maasros. So you said to your agent or another individual, he has to do you a favor, kachli, go buy for me stuff, mishu neman, from somebody who is trustworthy. Mishu meiser, and somebody who does take meiser. Eino neman, so you can't trust your agent. Because you don't know he's going to go buy from somebody who's neman. He'll say, oh, I believed him. And in reality, he didn't buy from a credible person. Meish ploni, if you said to your agent, go buy from so-and-so, from Ruvain, Harezin neman, then in that case you can trust that he went specifically to that individual because he's afraid not to go there because you can find out very easily afterwards. But shlichus is only choshen mishpat, because here he's doing his shlichus, but it's messing you up anyway, right? Shlichus means that he's going to do that which he was set out to do, but not to the not necessarily according to specifications. In other words, you specified somebody who's neman ala maasros. He might have different specifications as to what neman ala maasros is, right? He might go into chveis, one of those whatever. Yeah, that's right. I'm predictable too. You know what I mean? Okay. Meish ploni areza neman. If you tell him, however, go to so and so, to Ruvain, then you can trust him. Why? Because that he's not going to change that. Oh, if you told him to tell by Salim from Ruvain.
Yeah.
Oh, I know if it's a chazor. Oh, that's your asking. I know if it's a chazor shliachos or shlichuso here, because in this case it doesn't really chazor shliachos or shlichuso, but rather on the fact that he's afraid to not do the right thing. Chazor shliachos or shlichuso, even if there's no verification method, right? But here it might be because you're afraid. He's afraid you might go and verify it. Okay, so if your agent went to buy from Reuven, and then he came back, Omar lo, and he said, Lo mitzatzif, I didn't find Reuven. I bought you from somebody else's belief, it was credible. Eino Naaman, you don't accept what the shliach said on this point. Tani, we learned, Omar Rabbi Yossi said, Afilu Omar lo, even if he said to the agent, Mi ploni, go buy from so and so, Eino Naaman, he's not believed. Adit marlo kach vaninosimos, until you tell your agent, go buy from Reuven, and I'll pay Reuven later. Only in that case, Rabbi Yossi trusts the agent, because in that case, obviously, he's not going to, not fulfill the shlichus, because he knows that later on, you are going to go and look for Reuven to go pay him, right? So therefore, in this case, we say that clearly the potential to be revealed as a fraud is so great that he's afraid to not go to whoever you sent him. But this is the only case, according to Rabbi Yossi. He's more machmir than our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said even if you just tell the agent, go to so-and-so, that's sufficient. Here, Rabbi Yossi requires you to say, go to so-and-so, and I will pay him later on. Okay? So the verification is built into the mission. Matam Rabbi Yossi, what's the logic of Rabbi Yossi? On the Yomer I say, otherwise, if you don't say that, if he doesn't say to Reuven, if he doesn't say go take from Reuven and go to pay him afterwards, I would say Echol Karav Matzah, that the agent found a closer merchant, and bought from the closer merchant. Even the closer merchant was of questionable hechsher. The Knina Tama we learned over there, a similar thing in Gittin. Hiskabel Giti b'makom ploni. If a person said, a woman said, I want to be makabel, I want you, my agent, to accept a get from me in so-and-so place, ochels b'truma chiagia haget lo samokom, Tanakama says she can eat truma until the get reaches that place. Because she only made the agent to pick it up in that place and not in any other place. However, Rabbi Lezer oser miyad. Rabbi Lezer forbids her from eating truma if she was married to a Kohen immediately. Why is that? Because perhaps time of Rabbi Lezer, and the Yomer, the larger Rabbi Lezer is, I assume, Achar Adelis Mitzo, that immediately upon leaving the city, he found, or leaving the house even, that the Shliach found the Megaresh outside the house, or outside the city. So maybe he accepted the get immediately after leaving the woman's presence, and therefore, as a result, she's also betruma immediately. Now, it says more also to Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer is going like Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi is going like Rabbi Lezer. How so? Both of them, both Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yossi, have this chashash, have this suspicion that immediately upon leaving your presence, the agent's going to find somebody from whom to acquire the stuff without going to the guy whom you intended him to go to. Says more, not quite. The Rabbi Yossi, Reuven, and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yossi's chiddush is greater than Rabbi Eliezer chiddush, because in Rabbi Yossi, how so? V'lo Rabbi Eliezer. Well, I stop in those sense. V'lo Rabbi Eliezer, doesn't Rabbi Eliezer concede? Shim Amar Lo. If you, it should be Im Amar Lo. If the woman said to the shliach, I don't want you to accept the get except in New York. And if you find him right outside the door here, you have to travel with him to New York to accept the get. So in that case, even Rabbi Lezer concedes that it's not a get until when? Until it gets to New York, right? And therefore the wife, whose Kohen's husband is about to divorce her, can still eat Trumat Sheagir get Lo Samakom until the get reaches New York. However, but here, according to Rabbi Yossi, Afilu Amar Lo, even if you tell the agent explicitly, Mi Ploni, don't want you to buy right outside the door. You find figs right outside the street, I want you to go to the marketplace to buy them, right? So Afilu Amar Lo Mi Ploni, here, even in that scenario that you told him, go buy from so-and-so, according to Rabbi Yossi, and no Naaman, he's not believed, Achiyomer Lo Kach, until you tell the Shliach, buy Vanino Samos and I will pay afterwards. So Rabbi Yossi is much more machmir than Rabbi Lezer. He's machmir even a case where you specified, which Rabbi Lezer is not. Okay, my time with Rabbi Yossi, what's the logic of Rabbi Yossi? That he's so suspicious. Ani Yomer, because I'd say potentially Echel Korov Motzov Lokach Mimenu. Maybe you found the nearest supply source and you figure, what difference does it make if the person who sent me gets from this source, the other source, I found just as good here, I'll take these. Okay? Mishlei. Hanichlas there, you're coming to the city. It's also very much no ge'ebizman azeh if you just change around the case. Hanichlas here, ve'eno makir adam sham, you don't know a single person in the city. Varma, he says, mikan ne'eman. So you say, who is trustworthy here? Where can I eat? Where can I buy stuff? Mikan meiser, who takes the meiser? Amar lo, adam echad. One person pops up and says, Ani eini ne'eman. Me, I'm a conservative Jew. However, ish ploini ne'eman. Yankel, he's from. You can go eat by him. Is that credible or not?
No. Because he's not
right?
Ne'eman to begin with. So the question is he Ne'eman as far as Cheskas Kashrus?
Harei ze ne'eman. He's believed.
Even though he may be making up a story.
Right. Because what are we talking about here? Demai. And what are we talking about here? A wayfarer. Two reasons me make. So normally you'd be right. But not here.
There's another reason. Person, we don't accept, when a person says about himself that he's not Jewish. He says, I'm not.
Oh, no. We don't accept edus on a person for himself.
It doesn't have to be edus.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah, sure. If you come to me and say, Chas v'shalom, but if you come to me and say, I am a Rasha Marusha, I'm allowed to believe you.
That's just a status statement. He says,
What do you mean? It's just a status statement.
Generalized statement in Russian.
Yeah.
You say it specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Believe him? Absolutely not.
Sure you can. It's only not acceptable in court of law.
Oh.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. You know the Mason Mountain in Russia?
Go check it out. Sanhedrin Daf Yud.
There's also Marcus Daf Zayin.
Okay, go take it. Yeah, okay. I wasn't trying to show off. Maybe I was, but I made a mistake if I was. So go take a look. I don't think it's not. It's talking about testifying in court. Ploni Ran of Rani Lirzoni. So when you come to court and you want to testify on it. So out of court, you're allowed to believe a person that he's a rat fink. It's only in court you're not allowed to believe him. So here, Takif was not Demai, and he was not an Achsanoi, we would not be Meko. We'd say, oh, Takif. Okay? If you went to buy from the other guy, okay, so you went to Yankel, right? And he said, Mikan Mocher Yoshan. He said to Yankel, who sells Yoshan here? It was a Talmud Rebbar, and he was Makri on Yoshan. What? Yeah.
It's Eretz Yisrael.
It's Eretz Yisrael. Everybody has to be Makri, right? Mikan Mocher Yoshan. Amar Alei, so he said, Misha Shlochacha Etzli. The guy you met in the street, he sells Yoshan. Gee, seems like a coincidence, right? So what does it look like?
Collusion.
Right, collusion, right? That they're in on it together. So it says the Gemara, even though it looks like they're colluding, Arelu Ne'emonim. Now the beer on the bottom brings out that only the first guys believe, not the second guy. Slav Dafka, both of them are Ne'eman, because Yoshan is the Doraisa, right? But the first guys believe, that's what it means. Hachamorim Shenichlas here, donkey drivers who come into a city, one of them says, Shali Chodosh, I got Chodosh, meaning it's also grain. My friend's stuff is Yoshan, it's all grain, meaning it's okay. Shali Mesukan, my stuff is Tevel or Dmai. My friend's stuff is, however, is good. In this case, ain't on their money. They're not believed because what are they in? Collusion for sure, right? Donkey drivers do this all the time, right? All right, you don't merit their money. Rabbi says they are believed. Here, Rabbi does make in this case. Gemara is going to ask about this now. Ve'ed echad ne'emon. Wait a minute. Let's go back to the ratio. How can the Seid Echad be believed? Now, the Biur here says, or Chaim Kanievsky says, that even though Eid Echad's never be Surin, here he's Chashud, he's suspect. So how do I believe him when he says Yankel takes up Trumus and Maestros? He himself is suspect. How is he believed to make a statement of this case? Seems to be a raya against you, right?
Think about this.
Okay, the Gra is a different girsa here. Should make you happier. The Gra, instead of 8 echad, he obviously learns that was a typo, that it should be am horitz. But am horitz mean em. In other words, the guy who asks the question, he's an am horitz. He's clearly an am horitz. Am horatzim are not believed. How can you believe him, right? So it says more Rabbi Yochanan, as we mentioned before in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan says, Kale kilo b'achsenoi. It was a kula which they did by wayfarers. They should be able to survive when they go to different cities. You know, in the old days, you didn't have a luxury of Schreiber, Wilton, all these things. You had to travel there. You know. I once was on a flight one time from Chicago to Seattle. I got a meal with Dr. Scharfman's Hechsher, the Half Moon Cake, and it had a Sinai 48 corned beef sandwich in it. So, Baruch Hashem, it only happened to me once, but there's nothing I could eat there. Says, yeah, it was really miserable. All right. Tani, we learned Nichlas Leir. Now, this is although the Gemara doesn't tell us this, the Mefarshim say it's about a Kohen coming to the city. Kohen comes to the city, Veno Makiroi, he doesn't know his soul there. Oshoyim Mei Begorni, he's standing in a silo where they're distributing Truma. Veno Makiroi, he doesn't know anybody there. Harez Nishal, he can ask. Now, he wants to find out whether they're giving out Truma there. He wants to take Truma. But he's afraid it's Truma Tmeyo. Right? It's Tomei, it's not a good Truma, you can't eat it. So, Harez Nishal, Ben L'chaver, Ben L'Amoritz, he can ask either a Chaver or an Amoritz, is this truma okay for me to eat or not okay for me to eat? You can go to either one of these types. If you're Rebbe. Rabbi Omer, Eini Sholim Ala Truma L'Chaver Bilvad. You can only ask questions about Truma to a Chaver. Ask you to Rabbi Meir. That which Rabbi say can only ask the Chaver goes to Meir. Shingal B'Shitas or Shingal we will see presently is consistent with his own shita. What are we referring to? The Tzina Matamon we learned over there. Kol Amumin Aruin. You got the sandwich as a Bechor. We know that Bechoros you can't eat until they get a what? This man is there. A mum. So what if this Bechor that came before you and has a type of mum which bears which is likely to have been made by human hands, right? And that's also you're not allowed to make a mum in Kachim. We find you if you did that you can't eat it until it gets another mum. Okay? So Amumin Aruin Lavoli De Adam. Roin Yisrael, Jewish shepherds, we had this in Chulin, or Bechoros. Roin Yisrael, Jewish shepherds, Ne'emanim, not Jewish, Yisraelim, other than Kohanim, meaning, from the other Shvatim, are credible to say the mum happened on its own. Roin Kohanim made an Ne'emanim. However, priestly shepherds are not believed. Why? They put the mum themselves, right, so they can get it. Exactly. So that's Tanakama, who is Rabbi Meir. So we see it draws distinctions. It says you only believe the Yisrael shepherds and not the Kohen shepherds. Shigam Leomer doesn't draw a distinction. Ne'manu al Chavero. He says if it's your friend cow, you're believed, regardless of whether you're an Amoritz, whether you're Yisrael or a Kohen. You're not believed on your own. Rabbi Omer, you're suspect on your own. Lo donav lo mido, you can't get involved in it, even on somebody else's part, neither to paskin nor to testify. Rabbi Yochanan said, getting back to our Mishnah, ma pligin li kach. Well, not to our Mishnah. I'm sorry. We're talking about the Kohen. The Kohen, we had a machlokas Amud Aleph. Oh, it's not around. It's my Amud Aleph. Why you would try the same Amud? By the Kohen, we had a machlokas before, whether he can rely on only a chaver, even on Amoritz. That's true only by, however, the coin is coming to take. But if you're giving out truma, you're Yisrael, you're giving out truma, or for that matter, coin, whoever you're giving out truma, you got to double check who you're going to giving it to. After Shingal Mil Mode, that you have to verify whoever you have taking is a chaver. Ma ben mechalik and ma ben likach. What's the difference whether you're distributing or taking? Kol yitzil chiluk. Everybody assumes if somebody gets truma, he's a kohen upon whom you can rely and give truma to. And if he's an amoritz, you can't really give him truma because what's he going to do with the truma? Make a tummy. So therefore, before you give kohen truma, you have to double check if he's on the up and up or not. Okay, if he's Talmid Chacham or amoritz.
But you could say the mitzvah is to give it to the kohen.
It's not. It's not. It's also to give truma to kohen amoritz.
Knowing that it's going to be.
Because it's going to be matamid. That's right. Okay, it's also. It says in word for the Tanya Nichlasli, if somebody comes to the city, Umatza Siyos Shabnei Adam. Found a lot of groups of people. Amar said, Mikan Neman, Mikan Meiser. Who's trustworthy, who Meisers? Amar Lo Echad, so one of them says, Ani Neman, I'm believed. I'm a good trustworthy person. Im Amar Lo Shu Neman, if the other people in the group verify this, then I raise the Neman. What if happens if afterwards you had Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar? So Ruvain said, "I'm Neman," and Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar all said, "Yeah, he's a Neman." And then later on, they said, "You know what? He's not really a Neman." It depends how they reneged. Amrlo she'eno Neman. If later on they told me the guy's not credible, bifanav, if they had the guts to say it to the guy's face. Ain't on them, and then the guy is talking not credible. Shalom before, if they said it behind his back, they're jerks. And he still remains in Naaman, we still believe him on Trumas and Meisers. Okay? So in order to reverse your original story, you have to be able to start willing to say things in public, not say things behind other people's backs.
What if they're acting as Adim? They're saying, we saw Yaakov do this.
That's different. Here we're just spreading rumors.
This is just hearsay.
Right.
There's somewhere in the recess of my mind here that draws up something about depending on the status of the person who they're talking about. If it's like some feared person in the community, then somewhere some Gemara talking about something like that. If you're afraid of that person, then should they be? Different statuses, different. If you're afraid of this person, you should be believed. Especially.
I'm drawing a blank, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. I don't remember all of shots at my fingertips, so I can't tell you what that. Okay. Rabbi Yerushalmi said, "Ben Ir, b'sayos chaverim." If you're coming to a city and you want to inquire if a certain citizen is Naaman, you have to ask Chaverim. Let me change that shot. Ben Ir means if you're a citizen resident of the city, and you want to find out if when I first came to Chicago, I asked, well, which restaurants are kosher, right? Which ones I can eat in. Those days, it was still the days when the CRC had some non-glat under its hechsher, things like that. So I asked which ones I can eat in, right?
Shiur.
Yeah.
All meat is glad. Absolutely said it.
It's not true though.
That's what he said.
I don't know how he knows that. Yeah, but no. What he means is that they don't check sirchas because it's not fiscally responsible. Yeah, but the problem is the sheichtim are mechalei Shabbos. That's the problem with non. Right, the church is treif. That's all. No, of course, homie is glad. The question is whether it's treif glad or kosher glad. Right, but that's the problem. There's between glad and non-glad. But in any event, so that's when the people you have to ask are the chaverim. Not the Amaratzim.
How do you know who's a chaver?
If he wears a long black coat, and I don't know. You know what chaver is?
No, but that's a very practical question.
Right, of course. It's not pashut. You're right. B'sios b'achsenoi, where if you're a wayfarer, then you don't have to find the Talmidei Chachamim to ask. Afilu Amaretz, you can even ask them. Or B'sios Amaretz, you can even ask the Amaratzim. Again, it's a kula which they're mako by achsenoi. Right. The kasha is Rabbi Yoina. That's Rabbi Yoina. I have a difficult Rabbi Yoina. Chaveri. Well, actually, a difficult chaverin. You say that it has to be chaverim. Vata marta shalom in front of them. In other words, if you're coming into the city and you are, I guess, a ben ir. I guess for some reason we assume hanichnas l'ir, which we spoke about previously, is a ben ir. Somebody's coming to live in the city, and there we said that if they told you that Yankel is believed credible, and then behind his back they said he's not credible, right? Not incredible, but uncredible, right? So in that case, they're not believed, right? We still give Yaakov credibility, right? So ask the Gemara, if we're talking about when you come into the city, it's a ben ir, you have to ask. You have to ask Chaverim. So the Chaverim should even be believed that they said afterwards behind the guy's back he's not Naaman. Because they're not frivolous people. They're not going to lie to you. So why don't you believe them just because you asked them behind the back, just because they changed their mind behind the guy's back and not in front of his face. Okay, the Gemara does not answer this question. Truth is, I could give, I think, a posh answer though. That Anichnas Leir is talking about a person who's an achsanoi, right? Somebody just coming in, not a ben ir. Okay. Matan Rabbi Yehuda. What's the logic of Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah who says that the chamorim are ne'eman on each other, right? You can believe one donkey driver and the other donkey driver, because otherwise you can't run a city economically. Believe it or not, they took such cheshbonos into account in the old days, where how you could run a city on an even keel. So therefore, if the chumrah would cause too much hardship, they weren't machmir on it.
It's the bottom line principle.
Right?
It's my favorite principle.
The bottom line. Matamen Rabbanon. What's the logic of Rabbanon? Don't use these donkey drivers. Go to the next city and use other donkey drivers. These ones are suspicious. There's a rotten fish here. You can't rely on that. Okay? This makes it even more rotten. The people left the dead in garbage cans. New parak. Right? Parak Hey Aloch Aleph. You buy from a baker. Now, there's a whole bunch of disputes. What kind of baker we're talking about? An Amoritz, a Chaver, whatever. An Amoritz or a Chaver who doesn't take off mices because a baker might be we learned previously, not take off mices. For convenience sake, let's say it's talking about a baker who's an Amoritz. Okay? So you have to meiser. Kates and meiser. How do you meiser the stuff you got? You take the amount which corresponds to the Trumas Meiser and Challah together, because the Amoritz it does take off Truma, just not Meiser. And you say Echa Mimea Sheyesh Kan Hareze B'Tzad Ze Meiser. It should be on this side Meiser, let's say on the north side of the fruit. B'Shar Meiser Samachlo, and besides this 1%, there should be an additional 9% which are Meiser adjacent thereto. Meiser, and this one which I made Meiser first, now also Trumas Meiser should not become Trumas Meiser. Also Trumas Meiser Olav. Well, actually, now these 10 parts which are made Meiser, now this one part which is Trumas Meiser should be Masakin it. Bashar Challah, that's to what his 1/100ths go to. The rest of it, whatever else he had set aside together with 1/100th, that all becomes Challah. And besides, they also say Meiser Sheni B'Tzvona, or B'Dromi says let the Meiser Sheni be on the north or the south, and that he redeems some money. Okay?
So the 1/100th.
It's slightly over the 1/100th.
Well, besides the challah, the initial 1/100th.
Yeah.
So you can use that for Trumas Meiser.
That is the Trumas Meiser. It's the Meiser. No, Meiser. What? The Meiser you designate, but you didn't take out because you say Motzi Mechaver Lov Araya. Let the Levi prove that that it's Vadai. So you have to designate. You don't have to separate it. Okay. It says the Gemara. Sounds like from here that first you take off Challah and you take up Trumas Meiser on the Challah because it's 1/100th of the whole batch. Not just 1/100th of the batch sans the Challah, but it's 1/100th of the batch including the Challah. So that means you're taking Challah off of what? I got it wrong. You're taking Demai off of Chala. Right. Which is not true. The located did we learn Chala Sam Oretz. The Chala is needed by the Chala created by Nam Oretz. Vamaduma, or stuff which got mixed in. P'turim Minad Demai. They're not considered to be Demai. So, if that's the case, how can you say here that you take off Trumas and Meiser on the Chala? They're exempt from Demai. You don't take Trumas and Meiser off that Chala. Rabbi Yachon, Rabbi Bun Bar Chia B'Shem, Rabbi Yossi Ben Chanina said the Beis Shammai. It's going to Beis Shammai. The Tani came. We learned that this is the Brayos of Rabbi Shimon. Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Shimon. Shimon is the name of Shimon Bar Yochai. Shchala Beis Shammai Mechayven. Beis Shammai requires to take the Demai off the Chala as well. But Beis Hillel, however, Beis Hillel says, Potrain, you're exempt. You don't have to take Chala off of the Demai. Not the Demai off of Chala. Now. So that's more. Wait a minute. So what are you saying? Who's the one who holds that Chala is Chayiv in the Mai? Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai, the Chala is Chayiv in the Mai. Eladover Shu, and here it should be Lachila. It's a typo. Only things which are suitable to eat. Ilu alokeach zera. Somebody, after all, if somebody buys grain in order to plant it, or give it to an animal, kemach l'oros, flour in order to tan hides, shemen l'ner, oil for a candle, shemo eno poter midmai. In that case, do we say he has to give it to Mai? Of course he doesn't have to give it to Mai. He doesn't have to give it to Mai. You only give it to Mai and what? And stuff what you're going to eat. So it says more, wait a minute. Remember, what kind of baker are we talking about here? Amoritz, what's the problem with this challah? It's probably Tame. It's probably Tame, right? So you're not going to eat it? Well, you didn't say Pigel. You could have said no. Sorry, who knows what you could have said, right? So it's probably Tame. So it's not edible. Because Chal Tmei is like Truma Tmei, not allowed to eat it. So if it's not edible, why are we mechayiv you to take off the mai from it? Even Beis Shammai should agree. When the Beis Shammai make you take the mai off of challah? When it's edible, you're going to eat the challah, but here you can't eat the challah anyway. It's from an amoritz. So how can our mission apply that the challah is chayiv at the mai? It's only edible challah Beis Shammai required the mai from.
But Yisrael can still eat it.
Absolutely not. You can't eat the challah. You can eat the rest of it though, not the challah. Okay. So says the Gemara. Ela b'mgabelis also b'mei peiros. It must be because maybe it's you're going to say it's about where he's not buying, not buying bread. He's buying cake. The cake is made with apple juice. Apple juice is not a mashke. Mashke, you need one of the 7 mashkim in order to be generate tumah. So maybe we're talking about a case in our Mishnah. The Gemara hypothesizes there's no tumah because it was never mukshar l'kabel tumah. Okay, says the Gemara, locate Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Rabbi Chanina. Didn't Rabbi Yossi Bar Rabbi Chanina say the Rabbi Lezer ben Yehuda Ish Bar Tusai that who is the one who says that I wouldn't know this without the beer. He says about who's the one who says that cake is chayav in challah. Only Rabbi Lezer ben Yehuda Ish Bar Tusai. Hakrabanan lo. Rabbanan don't hold that cake is chayav in challah. So if that's the case, you have a problem in our Mishnah again. You have to say to our Mishnah, which says that you take the truma off the challah, is going like it's talking about don't eat it with fruit juices, and then it would be going specifically according to Rabbi Lezer ben Yehuda Ish Bar Tusai, but not going Rabbanan. So that we don't want to set up a Mishnah which is not going like Rabbanan, only like an isolated sheet of Rabbi Lezer ben Yehuda Ish Bar Tusai. So it says more Ella rather Lok Rabbi Yochanan. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan and Omar, Rabbi Yochanan drew a distinction, and what the case he drew a distinction from is not germane right now for us. The Yochanan drew a distinction from Kam Ba'isa B'Tara, Kam Ba'isa B'Tumah. that both cases are talking. There are two cases. One which is talking about Osa Tara, and one is talking about Osa Betuma. So, according to Rabbi Yochanan, our case is going to be talking about cases Osa Betara, and then we have difficult again. That Lichora, who's the opinion of our Mishnah? Who'd you have to give? Well, even if it's Osa Betara, if it's made Peiros, so you don't have to give Challah from it. That's what we just said, right? So, who's our Mishnah going like? So it says it's not going to Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, there's no way you're going to have Challah, which is not Tomei, which you can eat. Right? So if that's the case, let me see, did I say that right? What?
So there's no way that you can.
There's no way you can have challah. I know. Okay. I didn't punctuate the same right. There's no way you can have a chiyuv challah with mei peiros. That it should be not tamei. True. Mei peiros is not makabel tuma, but it ain't going to be challah, right? So it says the Gemara. How do we learn this? Rabbi Elazar, like Rabbi Elazar said, again, it's really a dichotomy between two cases which are not relevant to our discussion right now. What is this dichotomy? Kan v'kan boisa b'tahara. Both cases are talking about where you did a b'tahara. El v'misareach etzlo. It's talking about where you're a guest. Lo keintani, didn't we learn? Wait a minute. Okay, so you're a guest. So in that case, you're talking about in our Mishnah, not a guest. El Misareach Etzlo means the case where you don't have to take off the mai from challah is where you are a guest. Our case, you're not a guest. You're buying from a baker. You're not sleeping in the baker's house. So, didn't we learn Neman al Taras, Neman al Maisris? Didn't we learn? Wait a minute. If that's the case,
So it's not made purpose. So therefore, our mission is should be believed. If we're allowing you to take from it, that it's not a tumah issue. You should be allowed to take from it. It's not a nicer issue.
do we fall off the teretz? Yeah, we're not talking about May Paris. We're talking about, okay, right. Okay, so according to Rabbi Elazar, according to Rabbi Elazar, we're not talking about made Paris here. We're supposed to make Paris answer. It's bread. It's not cake. The shaila is if that's the case, the l'chor it's tamei, so you don't have to take challah off of tamei. So it says, you don't have to take, you don't have to take the mai of challah, which is tamei, because you're not going to eat the challah anyway. So this is where I tell you what we're talking about here. We're talking about kan boisa v'taro. You're making it when it's tar. Ela b'misareach etzlo. So says so what do you want to say? It's a rhetorical question. So what do you want to say? That you're a guest? Well, if you're a guest, lo kein tayan neman al taros neman al maisros. If you're a guest, then you can believe him also that he meiser. Why have to take off the mai? So this is already the answer. The answer is, we learn, Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel said this over, and he said, when do you believe him on both the Demai and on the Meister and on the Tara? When are they linked? When you're a private guest. You're right. But if it's in public, if it's in public, you don't believe the guy until he's mekabel b'rabim to take off both trumas and and be makbid into matara. V'kol b'rabim to take off trumas and V'kol in our Mishnah b'rabim monakayim, and we're talking about where it's a multitude. In other words, sorting that out, our Mishnah is talking about a baker. Bakers can be makbid on Tara, but not necessarily makbid on Demai. Okay, you can have a baker even though he's an Amoretz, who's makbid on Tara, but he's not makbid on Demai. That's what we're talking about here. So therefore, since that's the case, we say especially because we know there's certain bakers who are exempt from Demai, right? We learned that before because they make small profit margins. So therefore, since that's the case, says the Gemara, everything was good. Our Mishnah is talking about Isa, which is tar. And therefore, you have to take, when you take off chal, and it's Isa dough made with water. And therefore you have to take off challah. And the challah is tar as well. And therefore on the challah you have to take off the mai. He's such a kosher v'yosher Jew that he took off challah. Why does he take off demai? He sells in public. We don't necessarily, people, even if we give credibility in the privacy of their homes, when you're a guest by them, we don't have to give them credibility in public. And this too is another Musar Haskell, which teaches us the importance of having, for a public venture, a hashgacha, a higher level of credibility, as opposed to eating a private home. Okay?
This is not saying that there are some bakers who don't sell in public. We're just saying that this is a baker, and therefore it's always parada.
And therefore he's choshed all demai. Okay? New issue. Rabbi Av, Rabbi Shammai, B'Shem Rabbi Acha, Shamala. Well, actually, it's not a new issue. It's a different response to our question. Rabbi Av and Rabbi Simoy, B'Shem Rabbi Acha says Shamala. He explained, he derived, literally he heard, but he explained a resolution of our Mishnah, how you can be chayiv demai and challah, mean the basra from the seifa of a different Mishnah over there. I wrote to. Now, how much is truma from Tegel? How are we supposed to give? Mira Bainonis. 50. Okay, so that, how many percent is that? 2%. If you get Trumas Meister is how much? 1%. What's 2% and 1%? 3%. Not your question. You're not dividing, not multiplying fractions.
You deal with it more sophisticated. I'm with that.
Yeah. Now, what is that in a fraction?
2% is...
No, 3%. What's that in a fraction? 133 and a third. 3 100ths is 133 and a third. Okay, so now you understand the Gemara. What? 133 and a third. It's 3 100ths is 133 and a third. Why is that? Because I wrote so have Truma Trumas Meiser Kachas. Something let's think of Truma Trumas Meiser together. He takes off a third. How many have there? 133 and a third, 3% he takes off of his grain. The commodity I forgot how this answers the question. Oh, okay, I got it. Now let's wait a minute. That's not reasonable. I think more than say this, but let's go through the motions outside. That's not reasonable. How can you do that? The Mishnah says you can take 3% at once. Haram. Shouldn't work. Why shouldn't it work? Because then what you're doing, you're taking Trumas Meiser off the entire rather than from the remainder.
That's right.
Because really Trumas Meiser should be 1% of 99.8. Right, because 2% is Truma, right? Should be 1% of 99.8 should be 9.98 as opposed to 1. So therefore 2% for Truma and 1% for Trumas Meiser is inaccurate. It should really be 2.8%. 2.8%, right? If you had 100% being with, then you lopped off 2%, so now you're left with 98%. 1/100th of that is 0.98, right? 0.98. So you should not be able to give, right? You should not be able to give 3%. You should rather only be able to give 2.98%. Making a mistake somewhere. 2.02? No, it's not that small. The total amount, you had 100 to begin with, right? You took off 2. You left with 98. What's 1/198.98? No. It's 2 for Truma and 0.98 for Trumas Meiser. It's 2 for Truma and 0.98 for Trumas Meiser, yes. Let's say bigger numbers to make it easier. You have 1,000 bushels of wheat, right? How much of that goes to Truma? Truma. 1/50th. 2%. 20 bushels. Okay? So you're left with 980 bushels. You're left with 980 bushels left. How many of those bushels should go to Trumas Meiser? 9.8 bushels. So instead of the 30 bushels which you gave, you really only had to give 28.8 bushels. Okay? Slightly less. Okay? So it says more, why don't we take that into account? Why don't we take that fraction into account? It says you must say, no, we mean that. We mean that there's the Truma and the Truma's Meiser, and whatever the shiur should be. Because bear in mind, Truma has no shiur, right? So therefore, really, the Truma becomes 1.0 true, and the Truma's Meiser is the 2.98. We mean whatever way it'll work. Not that we're taking the Truma's Meiser off of the Truma, no, and not that we're messing it up in that way. No, we mean whatever way it works. Here too. We're here, we're doing the same thing. We're not taking Demai off of Chala. We're saying that whatever should be Meiser, for the rest is Meiser. You have a little bit extra because you're taking off a little bit too much because your percentages are off. So the rest of that will be Chala. Don't think we're taking Demai off of Chala. No. We're taking Demai and Chala separately. So he's answering the original question, how can you give Demai off of Chala? He's answering it. He says, you don't take Demai off of Chala. You're saying, part of it will be Demai, part of Chala. Can you tell me they're finished?
Yeah,
They just finished? Okay. Drats. Did I do 2 plot yet? Not quite, right? Alright, let's try and do it quickly. Sina, we learned. Chala ben Rishon l'Sheni. This is a revolutionary thing. When you have this dough, you bought the bread, from the Nachto. So you can take off Meiser Rishon, then Chala, then Meiser Sheni. It's out of order. What should the order be? Meiser Rishon, Meiser Sheni, then Chala. Because Chala always comes last. Chala is from dough, Meiser is from grain. Yet here you can take off Rishon, then Chala, then Sheni. Rabbi Yerushalmi, Rabbi Zira, Zoso Omar, this tells us, normally there's a prohibition. Baal Ta'achir means literally don't bring your matanos late. But here it means you have to be makbid on the Seder. Truma, Meiser Sheni. So we see, since you can put Chala in the middle, there's no Seder by Chala. Chala is not an aberration in the order. That doesn't bother us. That's one perspective. Rabbi Yerushalmi Zira says, no, Ein Mishnah Mura, this ala Seder. Our Mishnah is not meduktak. In other words, that which it says, you take off Meiser and then Chala, it's not meduktak. You take off Chala and then Meiser, it's not meduktak. Right? Because it says in our, it said not in our Mishnah. In that Mishnah, it's Ninon. Where's the Ninon? We just had it. The Ninon says, Chala ben Rishon l'Sheni. It's not meduktak. It's not medaktik on the Seder. So it says the Gemara, wait a minute. V'lo b'Demai anu kayamin. Aren't we talking about Demai anyway? And Demai, there's no problem of Baal Ta'achir. Located on my Rabbi Ba, Braid Rabbi Chia, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Masisa b'Demai, Habivadai lo. By Demai there's no problem, but Vavada there is a problem. And by Demai there is You can transgress Baal Tachar, but by Vada you cannot. So in the end, we're talking about the mice. So maybe there's no comparison whatsoever. Maybe then by Vadai, by Tevel Vadai, you have to do the order. Mice are in them Chala. But maybe here it's different because it's talking about the mice. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Chia said, Af bevadai, even by Vadai, he learned that this mission was going even by Vadai. And Olay, and concerning Vadai as well, Rabbi Yoin, Rabbi Shem, Rabbi Zero, Emer Zos, Emer Chala, Ema Mishum Baal Ta'acher. Even by Vadai, this halach was stated. That Chal could be between Maisers. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shem, Rabbi Zero, Omar, Emish Tamru, say the mission is not in order. It's not in order. Period. Now, why is it not in order? Ella Taktim, because it was like Rabbi Yoina, that there's no din of Baal Ta'acher by Meiser, by Chala, Ella Taktim Chala Rishon. Why does it say Chala comes between Rishon and Sheni? Let it come even before Meiser Rishon. Why does it have to come after Meiser Rishon? So it says the Gemara. The next part is problematic. That leaves for tomorrow. Because the thing is, the gears is messed up here. The next part of the Gemara have to change around the gears so I still explain it, it's going to take a while. So we'll leave this for tomorrow.
Can you just tell me what the words Yerushalmi Demai?
They used to have a flag. They had a flag. Which when they were ready to invite people in, they would keep it on the left. When they were no longer prepared to invite people in, they put it on the right. Right. Yeah.